The Atlanta Hawks have recently fired their head coach Nate McMillan, and they are still, I believe, in the search for a new coach. There's rumors for Quinn Snyder, and there might be an interim head coach for now, just from the assistant coaching staff. Whatever it may be, don't know officially yet. What I want to talk about, though, does not really require that information. It's more so what could be done to actually improve the Atlanta Hawks, and is it something that a coach can really fix, especially a coach that you're getting in the middle of the season and not the off season, not even the middle, towards the end of the year. Is that something that a head coach is really going to be able to fix? Or are the Atlanta Hawks kind of fundamentally broken in terms of how that roster is constructed, kind of just built to be mediocre every year, which seems to be the case even after adding DeJounte Murray to this roster? So I wanted to talk about Atlanta kind of overall this year and what changes I would make if I were going to be the head coach of this team, although of course that would go terribly because I'm an NBA YouTuber and not someone who really knows basketball at a professional level. Real quick though, as I just threw away all credibility I could potentially have, drop a like on this video to help it do better in the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel for more of these videos. I'm trying to get back to doing daily over here. Probably not going to happen because I always fail, but it's getting closer to that, at least recently. Anywho, the biggest problem with the Atlanta Hawks that I see right now on the offensive side of the floor is that there is simply no movement at all. And I don't just mean like in a way that's like targeting their guard situation with Trae and DeJounte, because both of those players really don't do much without the ball in their hands. While that is a huge part and really something that might be infectious and spread throughout the whole team, it was also clear that the offensive sets that the Atlanta Hawks had were far and few between, and really it just seemed like a high pick and roll. Maybe it would be a Spain pick and roll, something that's three-man action, if that, and then any player that's not involved in the main action is just standing there. That's the real thing. That's the best way to summarize it. Like, regardless of what they're doing with 1, 2, maybe 3 players in any given set, there's at the bare minimum 2 players just kind of standing completely still, or maybe just slightly rotating over on the wing, but not really doing anything of significance to make the defense have to worry about them. They do have to worry about them in the sense that they'll have players out there that can shoot the ball, of course, but they don't move enough that the defense kind of loses energy having to defend those guys, or they don't get caught up in off-ball sets and end up losing their man or things like that. The most important reason and the biggest reason why you keep the offense moving and why you have your players moving, whether it's off of the ball or whatever, you keep them moving because the defense is forced to be engaged. Whereas if you afford the defense essentially a break on every defensive possession by just like kind of stand there and be able to bring help defense if you can, and that's about it, it really makes the defense, from a managing the stamina standpoint, the defense is just able to be more effective and last longer, and it's just easier. It's easier to defend a team that does not have that action, because if you have a bunch of players moving and everybody's moving at once, there's room for confusion in there. Meanwhile, if you're playing a straight up pick and roll with 3 players on the perimeter who are all standing there, that's very easy to defend. You keep your eyes on the action while staying close enough to the shooter, and if you find the right opportunity to bring help, you do. If you don't, you don't. But either way, it's not going to confuse the defense in any capacity. So that's the big problem with the Hawks on offense. And again, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, they could both do better to do more stuff when they don't have the ball, given that when they're on the floor at the same time, only one of them can dribble the ball. But one way or the other, I think it comes down to the coaching situation. While those players have those flaws, even if they have those flaws, if the ball's in one of their hands, that's one player really not doing all that much. And even then, the coach can ask that player to do much more. It just depends on how much influence the coach actually has, because that's a whole other thing about the NBA is like relative to the coaching of basketball in other leagues and in college and high school and stuff like that. Coaches don't inherently have the authority over the locker room as they do in other instances. So some players can be frustrating and just never learn and just do whatever the hell they want. So maybe that will be what happens in the case of those two. But at the very least, I know DeAndre Hunter will be willing to move. I know that the name of their rookie that's really good that that Nate McMillan refused to play extensively. I can't remember his name right now, but he's a really good three-point shooter, and he's obviously going to be somebody who's willing to move. I think any level of motion to that offense dramatically improves them. Defensively, I don't know that there is much wrong in the scheme, and I don't think the Hawks are a terrible defense. In fact, let me look that up. Okay, they're 21st in defense, so that's actually not good. I thought they were like middle of the pack because I believe they were last year. No, they were 26th. Okay, I'm completely pulling this out of my ass. Okay, they suck at defense. I thought they were okay, but they're in the bottom 10 in the league. They're the 8th seed in the East. Not ideal. Obviously, Trae Young is a problem, but there is really no defender throughout league history that cannot be hidden pretty effectively. The great example would be like the 2017 Celtics with Isaiah Thomas. I'd have Jaylen Brown, Jay Crowder, Al Horford. There was just Avery Bradley. There were just a variety of players, Marcus Morris, who could play defense very well and hide someone like Isaiah. And I think that same thing can be applied to Trae. So I don't think it's fair to blame Trae entirely for the defensive issues that the Atlanta Hawks have. And DeJounte's there and pretty good. Clint Capela was really good like 2 years ago and pretty much single-handedly was responsible for the Hawks not being a terrible defense. And John Collins has made strides there, but I still wouldn't say he's like a really good defender. And he kind of has issues like being in between a big and a wing on both sides of the floor. And that's one change that I would definitely make. I think John Collins just simply does not make sense for this Hawks team anymore. And so long as this roster is going the direction that it is, the spread pick and roll, prioritizing the shooting and all that, John Collins is a great pick and roll player, but they also don't want to have Clint Capela just sitting there. It's kind of like you need to choose one or the other, and I would go with the guy who's more defensive oriented and just simply put a 4 out there who can space the floor, someone who can shoot and shoot reliably. I understand that John Collins has been a capable three-point shooter before. I'm pretty sure his percentages are down this year, but I haven't checked recently. But John Collins, even if he can hit his open threes, that's not what he's supposed to be doing, you know? It's something I say about him and a lot of players like him. Just because a player can shoot threes doesn't mean that's where the player is going to be gravitating the majority of the time. Like, John Collins is meant to be a paint guy. He's meant to be getting offensive rebounds. He's meant to be running pick and roll. He's meant to be getting dump-off passes. He's meant to be a lob target. And those are the things that he is elite at. Those are the things that brought him into the NBA. And if you're just making him a spot-up shooter, you are very much limiting the impact that he can have. And if you want a spot-up shooter, you might as well just have a freaking spot-up shooter who's going to do it better than him. So I would definitely get rid of John Collins, add some motion to the offense, which I think any coach could do, but it's really going to come down to how much grip they have over the locker room and how much they're able to influence these players, as well as if they're actually going to do it, you know? Not every coach has that philosophy, so it's just going to come down if they're going to actually try and get these guys moving off ball, because I say that like there should be something that's obvious, but it really feels like teams lately are going more and more to this heliocentric idea, and I just don't think it's a great idea. I think with someone like Luka Doncic, it works phenomenally, but with someone with the limitations that Trae Young has, the limitations that DeJounte Murray has, aka not being God like Luka Doncic seems to be half of the time, it's not as effective. So yeah, whatever coach comes in, that's what needs to be fixed. Can a coach fix it? I think there are some roster construction issues that need to be addressed, and that's going to have to happen in order for the Hawks to be great. But there is enough of the foundation there, and there is room to improve the offense in such a way that the Hawks could be great on offense. I'm not sure what to do about the defense. That's really going to come down to coaching and some personnel changes. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Hawks, and that's it. Goodbye.